We have taken a look at a slew of doujin titles on Bullet Heaven, but none of them have been directly from the source. They have all seen some kind of localization or port to Steam or other distribution sites. But not this time. Fresh off the heels of Comiket 18, we're about to take a look at one of the best doujins we've ever played. Rolling Gunner is a 16:9 Yoko bullet hell shoot-'em-up released by Project Rolling Gunner on August 10th, 2018, as a full-fledged physical release on DVD-ROM. It features a number of great mechanics that make for an engaging and challenging time no matter a player's skill level, all while being approachable and fun to play. So what makes it tick? Let's take a closer look. Rolling Gunner takes a number of very simple ideas to form a game that has an incredible amount of risk-reward on several different levels, and it all starts with its basic controls. Players move their ship, known as the Stork, about the screen with typical 8-way movement. There are 3 to choose from, each with its own color, fire spread, and speed according to what type of fire is being used. Most PC-compatible controllers should work. Our 8BitDo SN30 Pro did the job via Bluetooth, and of course, our Xbox 360 base Hori Jempad EX worked flawlessly. The 1, 2, and 3 buttons are represented in the same colors as the buttons they are mapped to on an Xbox pad by default, even if, in the demo, they are in a different visual order. As such, our explanation will be based on the Hori Jempad EX. Players fire the Stork's main cannons by tapping the B button. This will maintain rapid fire, known as Fighter Shot mode. The Fighter Shot will have greater power in the Stork's main forward-firing guns while maintaining full movement speed. This function is also mapped to Y if players don't want to continuously tap a button for the same effect. The player also has an accompanying bit called the Rolling Gun, which will continuously aim in a direction opposite of the player's movement. So, if a player moves directly forward, the Rolling Gun will aim directly backward. In the case of Fighter Shot mode, the Rolling Gun will continue to shift position as fire is continued, but holding the B button will engage Gunner Shot mode, which will shift firepower to the Rolling Gun while slowing player movement. When Gunner Shot is engaged, the Rolling Gun will lock its position. This allows players to really deal some damage, as they can lock the Rolling Gun to any angle in anticipation of any enemy that will appear on screen. Any enemy approaching the playfield will have a visual notification displayed where they will appear. This is also in conjunction to warning alerts that sound audibly to let the player know that foes are inbound. Since enemies can appear on all sides of the screen, this is a very handy tool to readily take out any threat. If players need a quick out, they can also deploy a bomber by pressing the X button. The bomber is pretty powerful and lasts quite a while, so it should allow players to get back into an optimal position while in progress. If a player is hit though, an auto bomber will deploy to save them from death. The auto bomber works a bit differently depending on the mode of play. The auto bomber in casual mode will only use up a single bomb from the stock, while original and expert will use up all bombs instead. This forces players to be able to anticipate danger and deploy in a split second if things get dicey. As players fire upon and defeat their enemies, medals will appear that can be collected by the player. In a lot of cases, medals will only appear through bullet collision if the player is in close proximity to the enemy in question, particularly in the realm of bosses and mid-bosses. This factors into scoring, which we'll take a look into in a bit, but it also serves for another aspect of the core gameplay. Collecting these medals will start a counter in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. When this counter reaches 1000, or full power, the player will be enveloped in a yellow aura, which indicates that the player can activate Powerup Mode by pressing the X button. The Powerup Mode will activate rather than deploying a bomber, and all shots on screen will change to medals for further collection. In Powerup Mode, a circular yellow gauge will display around the player's craft, which indicates the time players have left to use it. Their firepower will be greatly enhanced, which will not only damage enemies more efficiently, but also result in larger medals. This will also build a secondary red gauge around the player's craft, known as the limiter gauge. Starting at 10% limiter power, the player's aura will flash red, indicating that limiter break can be performed. This will also convert all shots on screen to medals while overtaking the normal power-up boost. However, it also lasts for quite a bit less time overall, even when the gauge is 100% full. Still, not only will the player's fire be incredibly powerful, this superpowered mode is also the key to the largest medals and highest scores, as we'll soon see. One final note, if the power-up gauge depletes fully, the limiter break will also be lost regardless of how much charge has been built up. This is, perhaps, the biggest risk-reward mechanic in the game on multiple levels, bearing this in mind. Additionally, if a player is hit in any manner, both the power-up and limit break will cease. Rolling Gunner is played over the course of 6 stages, each punctuated with a mid-boss and a stage end boss. Each stage feels pretty great in terms of length, and no one stage overstays its welcome. There are also 3 main gameplay modes to choose from. Casual, which is designed for players new to Danmaku or for those that want a more relaxing shooting session with a simplified scoring system. Original, which is the baseline difficulty with full forfeit autobomb and moderately dense speedier bullets. And Expert, which features way more bullets at high speed, but also more medals. No matter the mode, Rolling Gunner feels challenging but fair. Even casual mode can be pretty daunting in stages 4 to 6, but there was never a point where we thought that a 1cc was unattainable. Original and Expert will be more than enough for veterans to chew on as well, making for a package that should appeal to everyone. There is also an active rank system here as well, which can be tweaked so as not to overwhelm novice or intermediate players. The risk rewards inherent in the power-up system also makes for one of the more engaging original shooting games we've played for quite some time. Its Yoko gameplay style is very reminiscent of Akai Katana, which we took a look at in episode 51 of Bullet Heaven, and we would go so far as to say that Rolling Gunner might just be a better game from the mechanic standpoint. It's complex enough to always be fun, but not overbloated like Cave's offering, great though it is. And, complementing its excellent gameplay, Rolling Gunner also has a decent scoring system under the hood. When playing Rolling Gunner for score, medaling is going to be the core focus in order to get as many power-ups and limiter breaks as possible. This will require players to get a pretty intimate understanding of what kinds of medals are dropped from what enemies through the Stork's varying firepower. A lot of popcorn enemies will only drop tiny medals if defeated with the Gunner shot, while Fighter Shot will result in larger ones, for example. In addition, being able to anticipate and avoid dense fire patterns from mid-bosses and stage-end bosses will also help in building up the power-up gauge, as the number of medals dropped by these larger enemies varies by proximity. The ultimate goal is to engage Limiter Break to score large Eagle medals. These medals will add a tremendous amount of pointage to the player's score on their own, but since the Limiter Break is short, players have precious little time to capitalize on it. As such, the best way to make use of Power-Up and Limiter Break is to pay close attention to the Power-Up gauge so as to deploy Limiter Break as close to disengagement as possible. This will ensure that Limiter Break will be as full as possible while gaining larger medals as long as possible in Power-Up. This is risky, as losing Power-Up without engaging Limiter Break will kill the Limiter gauge too. But there's more to it than that. Starting in original mode, special scores are also applied to collected medals in both Power-Up and Limiter Break mode. A small number under the Power-Up gauge will display according to how many medals have been collected in total. When medals are picked up in Power-Up mode, players get a score for the medal collected, plus a bonus for the total number collected. As players continue to collect more medals in Power-Up, this bonus will also climb. Since larger medals are released in Limiter Break, the same boost applies, but on a much larger scale, since medals are more numerous and each large medal is worth considerably more. Best of all, the medal value will also be applied to a doubled bonus in Limiter Break. In either case, if the player is hit, this bonus will cease and the total number of collected medals will drop sharply. At the end of any given stage, a bonus for the total amount of each collected medal type, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, and Eagle, is tallied up for a bonus score. There is also a no-miss bonus if a player gets through a stage without dying. Autobomb does not count as a miss. This no-miss increases in value the later the stage is as well. At game end, a player also receives a life-stock bonus to supplement the score the player has at the end of the final battle. It's fairly basic, but challenging at the same time, especially with the risks involved with the Limiter Break system. These tips should allow players to get those ever-important extends throughout the game. Extends are obtained primarily through scoring, but other ways exist as well. We found at least one hidden 1-up pickup that granted an unexpected, but welcome, immediate extend. Such an engaging score system coming from such a small team is pretty rare, but we love how effective it is in keeping us coming back for more. The only real downside? There's no online leaderboard in Rolling Gunner. We hope that if a new version is brought to Steam in the future, that an online leaderboard can be implemented. Until then, all players can do is post a picture to the forum of their choice. Great gameplay and great scoring? That would be enough, really, but Project Rolling Gunner has pulled out all the stops with this title. Rolling Gunner has a super slick presentation, and it even gives the big guys a run for their money. Visually, Rolling Gunner is actually pretty stunning. It employs pre-rendered visual style, and they have the kind of quality that we'd only really ever see from a game by Cave in recent memory. Though the game itself is only presented in 720p, it still scales exceptionally well on a 1080p monitor. The visuals also run at a pretty silky 60 frames per second most times, save for the intentionally slowed bullets in later stages. This slowdown can also be turned off. But it goes way further than just a bunch of cool-looking sprites and backgrounds. The UI and menus are easy to navigate and feature a ton of cool design flourishes. The title screen is vibrant and exciting, and the story is brief, yet effective. The real stars of the show, though, are the unique intermission scenes throughout the whole game. Huge 2D sprites and awesome animated scenes make for an excellent introduction to the game and a superb end to each cleared stage. It's unbelievably satisfying, not to mention pretty rare. The only real qualms we have with the visuals is that some of the larger sprites have some choppy animation to them. The carrier ship Newfoundland is of particular note. In addition, some destruction craters look like puffy black masses, and some intermission elements flatten out a bit too much as well. Not a deal breaker though, as the rest of the visual presentation is ace. It's just something we noticed. The sound in Rolling Gunner is equally excellent, with an OST boasting standout after standout. It's kinda hard to pick the tunes we love the most, as it all fits and it's all great. So great in fact that we literally bought the soundtrack CD just before typing this very sentence. All kinds of flourishes accentuate the intermission scenes as well in a cheesy but effective manner. The sound effects throughout Rolling Gunner are also equally fantastic. Great alert sounds, awesome shots and explosions, the whir of helicopter blades, it all just works. Overall, this is the kind of sound design that greatly impresses us. A number of options that players can use to tweak their gameplay experience exist as well. Rank, extends, bullet lag, display tweaks, and more can be found in the config menu, while button mapping is also possible in its own menu. Players can also practice the game in training mode to really get to grips with the harder parts of Rolling Gunner, perfect for working towards that 1cc. Any condition a player can think of at any section of the game can be practiced. Finally, a replay system is also present for players to show off their sickest exploits. Of course, that would involve capturing and uploading a video to a sharing site, but the option is still there. So, how does Rolling Gunner stack up? Let's take a look. Rolling Gunner has surprisingly amazing control with sharp, responsive movement and an intuitive button layout. Rolling Gunner is a pretty challenging game no matter what the mode, but not so overbearing that players will view it as impossible. With 6 main stages of sufficient length and 3 difficulties waiting to be conquered, not to mention practice modes and an excellent scoring system, Rolling Gunner will have players coming back for more. Visually, the sprites in Rolling Gunner look amazing, even if they do suffer from having a few 2 frames of animation from time to time. That's definitely not a deal breaker. The intermission scenes are also pure distilled awesome. Rolling Gunner has one of those awesome soundtracks that just begs for players to buy it on a CD. We did. You should too. Meanwhile, the sound effects are all top-notch. The risk-reward throughout the entirety of Rolling Gunner makes it feel pretty fresh in all regards when it comes to its ingenuity. The scoring system is fun and dares players to take their skills to the limit. The only slight downside? No online functionality for scoring and replays, which, in the end, is a non-issue with YouTube and other forums existing. Otherwise, we couldn't be happier. Rolling Gunner is sold online at an asking price of 2,500 Japanese yen, or about $25 US, with only 300 yen shipping. For a full-fledged physical PC shmup like this, especially given the quality of the materials, well, it's just a no-brainer. The soundtrack can also be had for 1,500 Japanese yen. Hwah, that was one heck of a ride. This has to be one of our favorite shooters in recent memory. Maybe even, dare we say it, the best doujin on PC since Crimson Clover. We're not really sure we need to say it, but get this one and its soundtrack while you can. Rolling Gunner gets a 5 out of 5. As of this episode, you can get the Rolling Gunner DVD-ROM on various online shops for about $25 US. We got ours from Nanapo's shop with payment and shipping via PayPal. Shipping is fast for its price, and a link can be found in the description below. Damn, this game is so good. I can only hope that it gets localized so that everyone can experience its splendor. We have another episode in the works to cap off Series 9 though, a bonus game that was installed at the same point when we were setting up Rolling Gunner. As if there wasn't another reason to get this game. See you next episode.